Just because it's a good game doesn't mean you're gonna like it. These are games I have played before, and for one reason or the other, I've just didn't like it as much as I probably should have. So here are my top 5 games that have disappointed me. Number 5 is Dragon's Dogma, a game that I own on 3 platforms, PS4, Switch, and Steam. The way I found out about this game was via, I believe, Watch Mojo actually, or one of those top 10 videos, and one of the video introduced this game as a Japanese version of Skyrim, which is a pretty enticing way to introduce a game. So as you can see, I didn't actually open the PS4 game. I started with a Switch version, and the Switch version, I knew it had flaws in terms of draw distance and how it runs, but again, what I was expecting was a Japanese version of Skyrim, and I guess in some way it is, but really it's something completely different, and I expected to be a breeze through the park. I honestly thought this was gonna be a very chill and easy experience. Turns out it's not. It is nothing like that, and it is quite difficult. It's very different from Skyrim, I can tell you that much. In Skyrim, you can pretty much brute force your way through the whole game, right? You don't have to really be that careful, you don't have to be that thoughtful with dungeons and your encounters with enemies. This one is more involved. You can't really brute force it. You do have to strategically play it, if that makes sense. So it's not really the fault of the game, it's just that I had a very different and maybe wrong expectation of what this game was gonna be like. But I do want to give it another shot in the future very soon, because I mean I own 3 versions of the same game, so I do like the whole concept of the game. It's just that at the moment I'm just gonna leave it for now and maybe come back later, see if I'm ready for it. Number 4, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, and it's probably not the reason that you think. A couple of years ago, I actually went and did an Assassin's Creed marathon. So I started with the Ezio collection and I played all the way up to this game. I played Unity on PS4 Pro, and by the time I was done with the game, PS5 had come out. It supposedly had backwards compatibility, so I traded in my PS4 Pro for a pretty decent deal and got myself a PS5, and I popped this into the disc and I find it's bugged. It was broken, rendering this game essentially unplayable. Ubisoft did eventually release a patch to fix the issue, but this was years after PS5 have come out, and so I actually ended up skipping this game and went straight to Assassin's Creed Origins, which is actually a completely different game. I mean, this is also open world, but the game is quite linear in terms of like story and mission progress, whereas Origin is so open world that you can just do whatever you want. So it's kind of hard to go back to this game after experiencing such a radically different game. Disappointed because it had a technical issue running on PS5. So it has nothing to do with the game. The game, honestly, everything about this game, I think I'm gonna love it, but yeah, it's sort of left a sour taste in my mouth, and I'm just gonna leave it for now. Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. Now, I absolutely love the original. This is in my top 10 Switch games of all time. This is amazing. I originally bought it digitally and I liked this so much that I bought a physical copy still wrapped up. This is an absolute treat if for anyone who loves strategy games, and if you just like Mario and want to have a good time. It's a very chill and relaxing game. Fantastic story, great characters, great gameplay. Everything about it is simple, beautiful, just well crafted. And this game, you know what, when the news came out that they're gonna release a sequel to the original, I was so excited. And then at some point they announced that it's gonna abandon the grid system from the original and go with this sort of area thing, where you're not limited by grids, you're limited by the area. And that had me worried, if I'm being honest. One of the charm of the original is that the simplicity of it, and the grid system, although it's limited, I think it brought the best of both worlds. The complexity of it plus the simplicity of it, it just had everything. Whereas this thing, I did give it a shot. I played it for about, I believe, 7 to 10 hours. I like what I saw, but at the same time, it wasn't as impactful as the original. And again, I'm just to let you guys know, I'm one of those guys who prefer the original versus the sequel, right? I prefer Portal 1 versus Portal 2. I prefer Breath of the Wild versus Tears of the Kingdom. I'm one of those guys. So to someone like me, this was genuinely a disappointment. And it sucks. It sucks because apparently it didn't sell that well. Like every other game in this list, I am gonna be giving this game one more chance in the future. Spider-Man. As you can tell, I don't have Spider-Man 2. That's because it's really expensive and I can't really afford or justify spending over $100 for games. I'm waiting for a sale. Hopefully that comes soon. But that's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is actually the game that's supposed to go in between these two. They remade Spider-Man and remastered it for PlayStation 5. If you bought the Ultimate Edition of this game, it was included in the Ultimate Edition. Now here's the problem. Let's say it's your first time playing Spider-Man game, and you are a physical kind of guy. You only like to buy your games physically. You don't like a digital copy. So you'll likely buy this game and then go to this game afterwards. Problem is, they changed the character. Peter Parker has a different character model in this version compared to Miles Morales and the remastered version. If you're physical only, there's gonna be this huge confusion as to why Peter looks so young in the sequels compared to the original. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, why not make a physical version? I mean, Sony loves doing that. Sony loves remastering old games to, you know, make more money. They did that with Last of Us. They did that with Last of Us twice, actually. They released the remastered version from PlayStation 3 to PlayStation 4, and they remade it on PS5. So they could have easily done that here, but for some reason, they just completely skipped the physical copy. Now granted, you could argue that there are more people buying games digitally nowadays compared to back in the day, but still, it's just baffling, really. And number 1. Oh, this hurts me. This hurts me so much. Dragon Quest VIII: Journey of the Cursed King. Okay, let's talk about this. This game is considered by everyone to be the best Dragon Quest game of all time. This is up there, right? If you were to pick maybe the top 3 Dragon Quest games, this would be in that. My problem is, and this is a weird one, I admit, it's that it's an old game. What do I mean by that? So this game is on 3DS, however, this is a port of a PlayStation 2 game. Now, I don't know if you've ever played an old RPG, but they're quite brutal. It's not like games from now where, you know, they hold your hand all the way through the end. This game doesn't do any of that, so if you make a single mistake, you are completely doomed. So, one of the mistakes I've made playing this game was that I picked the wrong skill. So there's this character in it's been a long time. I can't remember the characters' names, but there's this one character in the game that everyone essentially uses bows, right, as the primary weapon. I didn't know that. I didn't do any research because I wanted it to be a fresh experience. I didn't want like Wikipedia to influence my gameplay, so I just went completely blank. So I equipped the hero with a boomerang. I equipped the knight with I believe some kind of a sword, and it just went so badly. I got stuck in this part because it was such a terrible build. I kept on going for maybe 3-4 hours, just grinding and grinding to see if I could get through it, but I couldn't do it because my build was so terrible. So what I ended up doing was, I was so enraged by it, I just installed cheats on it, and I increased my damage to like the maximum amount, like 9999999, and I just brute forced my way. My justification back then was that, oh, I'm stuck on this anyways. I just want to see the end of the story because I was so close to it, and that was it. But the thing is, that completely cheapened my gameplay experience. That completely ruined it. So come the next boss, I completely lost interest, right? And I gave up. I stopped playing. So to this day, I actually don't know how this game ends. I've seen some spoilers on YouTube on the ending, but I don't really know the true ending of this game. I am gonna revisit this game eventually, but I'm kinda hoping it's wishful thinking from a fan, but I really hope they remaster this game on a newer platform than 3DS. This is still a beautiful looking game that if they just remastered it, maybe added a couple details here and there, this would look amazing on a Switch or a PlayStation or Xbox or PC even. It's a real shame how this game is stuck on PlayStation 2 and 3DS. And smartphones, by the way. I actually do have a smartphone version, but I can't show you because I'm using my smartphone right now. So I have 3 copies of this game actually. Hang on. Oh boy. I love this game, right? Even though I had a pretty bad experience with it, I still think it's one of the greatest games ever made. I really want to like this game, but the versions that are currently available to us, none of them are really ideal. This version has all the high quality model textures and all that, but this runs in lower resolution. It doesn't have any quality of life improvements. This one has all the quality of life improvements, but it's lower resolution than the PlayStation 2 version. Textures are butchered, the coloring is overly saturated. The smartphone version is essentially a port of this version. There's no real ideal way to play it, and so I really hope Square does release a port or a remaster of this game, or even a remake really if they wanted to. It would sell pretty well really. I'm really waiting for that. Hopefully it does happen, and I think it will happen considering how successful and impactful this game has been to the entire series. That was my top 5 games that have disappointed me. However, there is actually one more game that have left a pretty big impact on me, and the game that really I still think to this day why I didn't like it and why it was so disappointing to me. And it's 2 games in one. It is Pokemon Y for 3DS and Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu for the Switch. However, that is a topic for another video. I'll see you guys in the next one.